Semester 1, we have two papers. Okay. One is microeconomics. It is called introductory micro, but anyways, I prefer to call it simply microeconomics 1. Okay. You'll have three microeconomics papers. One is in SEM 1 and the other two are in SEM 3 and SEM 4. Okay. And the other one is mathematical economics. Okay. Mathematical economics is not really a paper of mathematics. It's basically, it contains those mathematics or mathematical chapters which are relevant in studying economics. Also, some of the models of economics in mathematical version. Okay, because economics uses mathematics quite heavily. So the math eco paper, in short, we call it. The first one is what you have. Okay, so these are the two. Okay, and since because of this new normal we have started late, all of us actually started late. That's a disadvantage, honestly, because you have lesser time in total. Okay, although we do not know currently what will be the breakup of the two sames, but in total, in your in the first year, you obviously have lesser time. Anyways, so first let us look at the books. Okay, then we'll go to what we have in the syllabus and how to go with that. Okay, so in case of micro, the standard textbook is Principles of Economics by Mankiw. Now this book essentially has three important parts. Okay, in part 1 you have a lot of things actually about economics in general. Okay, about economics in general. Then there is a part 2 which will specifically talk about microeconomics. All right, and then there is a part 3 which will specifically talk about macroeconomics. Now obviously we are interested in these two parts. So things about economics in general, and then there is microeconomics. Macroeconomics is not under our purview in this semester. Okay, so these are the two in which we are interested. Okay, but this is a very basic book. Okay, although it's sort of textbook, although I mean the idea of textbook doesn't really work in honors. It's a very basic book. Let me put it like that. It introduces the subject, talks about things in examples which are quite easy. Okay, and by doing that, it actually kind of do away with the difficulties or difficult parts or certain rigorous details of economics, which one must know. But then again, to start with, it's good. Okay. Now, just to say, it is not that Principles of Economics is the only book about all of this. There are several choices, and each one is equivalent to the other. But obviously, in every aspect of book writing, so to say, in economics, there are some which are best. And regarding introduction, the pioneer is Economics by Samuelson and Nordhaus. Okay, Economics by Samuelson and Nordhaus. This is a brilliant book, and based if I speak on the topic of introducing economics, there is nothing better than this one. But anyways, And to be more honest, all of the books which comes with title like Principles of Economics or Economics, all of them are essentially inspired by Samuelson's book. Is the first of its kind, and it's still the best. Okay, so if you're interested in studying a little bit deeper with some thoughts on the subject, then this is the book you should go for. Okay. Now, apart from this, there is one other book that is needed, one other kind of book rather. See, I told you that as I was saying, that all the books that we have, these two books, they are of introductory level. Okay. And given the syllabus, they will cover 50%, but that 50% is pretty easy actually. But the 50% which is hard and which kind of takes you to the way the economics honors is, to that extent, we need other books. Okay. Now, microeconomics essentially is very mathematical. Okay. So this is something that you must understand, or at least keep in your head quite clear, that microeconomics is essentially mathematical in nature. Okay. So apart from the English that any textbook will have, there are two approaches which are equally important. One approach is through diagram. Now, as per the university, the diagrammatic approach is favored, at the introductory levels. The reason is pretty simple. The reason is that diagrams are good to understand. So they are easy to understand the essence. So that's a huge advantage. So they're easy to understand the essence. So whatever you are studying or will be studying in future, it is important that you understand the associated diagrams. Also, it is important that you learn to draw the diagrams. Okay. It's not that we are dealing with reproducing some diagrams. It's essentially the art of drawing diagrams given a problem. That's the actual point of learning. So easy to understand the essence. That's one. So basically, because of this, diagram is always a good starting point. Number two is makes things easy. Makes things easy. Easy in the sense that diagram is basically a non-mathematical approach. In terms of mathematics, a diagram is essentially an illustration, unless, if it is not something geometric, if it is not coming from Euclidean or non-Euclidean geometry. Other than that, a diagram is an illustration. So all of the things that you probably have studied or you're going to study, like demand supply diagram, okay, they are essentially heuristic in nature. They are drawn to make you understand some essence, okay, but they are purely illustrations and nothing more than that. They are dependent on the functions that we consider, and each diagram by that becomes very typical case. So for example, if I draw a demand supply diagram which looks like this, I'm assuming that both the demand and supply are straight lines, which is not really a good point to start. Maybe it will help us to understand a lot of things pretty easily, but obviously this is a very kind of easy to work with scenario. Okay. So because of that, and because of further study, and by that I mean the next semester, apart from diagram, the other approach that becomes really important is mathematical approach. Now for that, obviously we have mathematical economics, that's true, but then again, the mathematical skeleton of this subject of micro, it must be understood parallelly. That is, whenever I am studying, at that point, At every point of study, we must understand the mathematical approach that is needed. Okay, so the books that I'll be talking about, in essence, their names are typically microeconomics or something related to microeconomics. So that can be microeconomic theory, introduction to microeconomic theory, so on and so forth. Okay, but essentially they are books of microeconomics, and these are the books uh, to understand which is your actual intent. Okay, so books like Mankiw's book, they just introduce you to the subject. They just make you learn some terms and definitions and some basic diagrams, and their actual objective is to prepare you to study this kind of a book. Okay, that's their job, and that's basically the idea of this introductory course. That first of all, you must learn some words like opportunity cost, probably PPF, okay, exchange, and all of that. And the idea of making you learn all these things is very simple, so that you be able to study this kind of a book. And this is the book which will cover the important 50% of your syllabus. It is important not only in the sense that you have it in SEM 1, also because it will be the first part of a journey which will continue in SEM 3 and SEM 4. Okay, so that's the bigger importance. And then there is a third importance, and that is the fact that many questions of several entrance exams come from those chapters. Although initially we are not really interested in answering entrance level questions, because without knowing the subject, trying that will be a simple waste of time. And also it will lower your confidence. So that's why we are going to learn, or we are going to stress more on that 50% which is coming from this kind of a book. And regarding the Mankiw's book, it's more of an outline study, and the importance is more around the semester exam that you will have. But this is for your future. Okay, so the treatment of these two books, or the contents of these two books, is quite different. So keep that in mind, because that will kind of guide you how to treat these two books. Okay, so in here there are many options. So one is Parloff, and the book is Microeconomics. There is another book of Parloff which is Microeconomics with Calculus, but that book is simply not available in this country. So Microeconomics, Parloff. Then there is another book, SRC Microeconomics. SRC takes a very mathematical kind of an approach, okay, to the subject, and Parloff is essentially diagrammatic. Okay. Then there are some options. A third option is Snyder and Nicholson. Okay. This is a little bit advanced book. So even if you approach this book, you have to approach this book because it's a bridge between what you should be able to do and to test your limit. So how far can you go? Snyder and Nicholson and Snyder basically tests that. But there are other books which are basic, or not really basic, but comes with lesser difficulty. Okay. And they are also quite popular because they come with lesser difficulty. So in that, so if I talk about lesser difficulty, if you think that that opening Parloff becomes a difficult job, so with lesser difficulty we have Halverian, okay, and Halverian's undergrad text UG text. Halverin's writing is beautiful. It is more based on logical understanding of the subject. So often, getting this book and reading it becomes a good starting point. It takes a lot of time before starting things. The only disadvantage in terms of our purpose is that Halverian doesn't come with exercise. There is a workbook of Varian, but I personally find that workbook to be quite easy. Okay, it's better to do exercise from Parlov. That will actually test your understanding much better way than the Halverian's workbook. And then there is another option in the lesser difficulty, that's Pindyck and Rubenfeld. So in a way, Pindyck and Rubenfeld is also a simple book. And the advantage of this book is it is slightly mathematical. So it is more mathematical. Obviously not as mathematical as SRC. And introducing SRC in the very first sem actually it becomes a little bit difficult. Because when I'm saying something to be mathematical, I'm not really saying that, don't try to imagine a book of high school calculus. That's not the kind of book I'm talking about. So they are more mathematical. They consider more on functions and what are the mathematical implications of structures and so on and so forth. Okay. But one of the beauty of Rubenfeld is that it comes with an exercise which is not really difficult, but which is good. So it's like this. If you start with Parlov, SRC and Snyder are not really a good books to, they are kind of difficult unless you have a solid mathematical understanding, not problem solving, mathematical understanding. It's hard to start with these two books. Okay. And also probably studying this book will make you, the economics will appear a little bit different in these two books. You will imagine the subject a little bit differently if you read one of these. So that's not really appropriate when you are starting it. Anyways, so Parlov is a good start, but then again, it's a little bit difficult book. It may appear to be difficult to in cases. So if that happens, then going back to a book like Pindyck, Rubenfeld or Halverian is good. Okay, and as you can understand that no one is actually saying that you make a bookstore of your own. Although I'll say this is for SEM 1, it is obviously needed. Not only for SEM 1, it is for actually for future entrance exams also. SRC is a fine book, but I'll say that it's not really appropriate to study now. Better if you go for either this one or this one, to have an easier book in your hand, which will guide you in difficult times, let's say, in not only in this semester, but the entire micro course that you have in your UG. Okay. Well, any one of these two, because anyway, Parlov has fascinating problem sets, which are sometimes easy, sometimes difficult, sometimes intuitive, very interesting to do. So it doesn't matter if you go for Halverian actually. And sometimes reading Halverian becomes a bit is a better idea actually. Okay. Anyway, so let's look at the syllabus of micro and see how we are going to, which part is going to be studied from which book. Okay. Now, one thing that we must understand that in a semester time, where time is very short, it's not a yearly way. So because of that, studying a lot of books, you don't have the time to study a lot of books. But if you don't actually read a book, it will be very difficult to understand the subject. See, every book comes with its author's, thinking. So it's the same microeconomics. The skeleton is same, obviously. But when, let's say, Pindyck is writing microeconomics, and Parloff is writing microeconomics, they are putting their own thoughts to it also. So every author has a thinking around how a student must know the details of the subject. Okay. Now, obviously, going through too many books, first of all, will, I mean, to put it in simple words, first of all, it will mess with your mind. Second is that it is simply impossible. And third, the greatest disadvantage is that you will end up without any thinking of yours. That's dangerous. Okay, because the subject is going to be, kind of bread and butter unless you decide otherwise. So, keeping to one book is always better, but having an easy alternative is always good, because even in the best of books, it may you may enter a situation where you may not understand what the book is actually saying, and more often than not, a more difficult scenario occurs is that probably the author is saying a lot and you are understanding 10% of it. So all of that is common. It happens that it's not the case that it's not school that everything is somewhere of listed somewhere and you study it and done. Even today, when we study the subject, we kind of realize again many things that we have studied in graduation. Okay, so that's common to higher studies. Right, something that never happened in school. Okay, this is quite common in higher studies. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that you will study something called cardinal and ordinal utility. Okay, in microeconomics, so you'll study something called cardinal and ordinal utility theory, and you'll study a huge details of it. Okay, and it will happen that by the time probably you'll reach third year, you will realize this topic better than what you will realize now. Okay, and if you keep on in the masters, then again you will realize it in much detail. So that occurs, that happens with higher studies, something which is not there in school. Is okay, it's not that whatever you study is not going to change in your head. So it is because of this we must start with a book like Parloff, which is sufficiently uh, difficult. Okay, and try to understand what it is saying, and to test whether we can do the problems of that kind of book. But then again, if we face problem, you can face problem. For that, we have a easier alternative. Okay, so I'll suggest this. Obviously, ManQ is needed, and I said what is the purpose of this book, and it's actually useless beyond that point. Okay, but it's required anyway. And obviously, you have to study whatever you have to study from this book. You have to study it word by word. Okay, so we are looking at reading actually. Okay, then comes Parloff. And if you ever face difficulty in studying this book, then there is an easier alternative, which is either Pindyck or Halverian. Each one is good. Okay, anyone will do. That's not a big deal. All right, so let's look at the microeconomics syllabus. We're going to break it in two parts. As I said, first part, which is for which we'll use ManQ, and the second part, for which we'll use Parloff. This part, which is easier, okay, in sense of if I talk about exams, obviously this part is a lot philosophical, but in terms of exam, that part is easy. And the second part, which actually introduces you to the paper that will continue in SEM 2 and SEM 3. Okay. So we'll go unit wise because we can divide it unit wise. So let us talk about those units for which ManQ's book will be our guiding star. Okay. So obviously it will be for unit 1, all right, which says exploring the subject matter. Exploring the subject matter. The undertone is pretty simple. The undertone is that we are looking for an overall idea. It's kind of the preface of microeconomics that we're going to study. Okay. So obviously you have terms which actually takes a huge place. Then you have definitions. Okay. And then what you have are examples. Okay. And it works with economics. Then it goes to micro. And then it deals a bit on trade theory also. Now, at this moment, I cannot really explain to you why suddenly trade theory comes in the picture. But let me put it like this. If we consider countries as individuals, which is quite difficult, but anyways, in terms of decision making, if we consider behavior of countries as a single entity, okay, you can actually start trade theory from micro. Okay, so you will see that actually happening in 4th sem. But here we have some of the basic ideas of trade theory. Okay, and obviously there is something called working with graphs. So as you can see, I said that it is the diagrammatic approach in which we are more interested. So working with graphs becomes very important, because if you don't understand this, if you're not this is more oriented with skill. Okay, this is more related to skill. So it's your skill building which will actually be important while answering. Okay, then comes unit 3. So let's look at unit 3. What is unit 3? So unit 3 is basically market and adjustment. Market and adjustments. This is also a kind of, a world which is dealing with terms and definitions. So you have things like invisible hand, which is actually quite difficult to understand. But anyways, we have just the outlines. Then different kinds of markets, so on and so forth. Different kinds of markets, public and private good. Okay. And by adjustment, we are talking about mechanisms which stabilize a market situation. Okay. So this is also will be coming from Mankiw, right? Okay. All right. So these are the two things which you will study solely from Mankiw. I mean, you have to read. Then comes some other points which are, so one unit extra, which obviously will be studied a little bit seriously from Mankiw. So it is essentially connected to elasticity. Okay, but elasticity, as it happens, it is partly it is basically a mathematical structure, but it has the economic meaning of it is very interesting, anyways. And sometimes although I personally feel that the economic meaning is much to deal with the producer than with the consumer themselves. But anyways, that we'll look into. So the 1, 3, 4 are the units which are coming from Mankiw. Now, if we talk about university, Principles of Economics, that is Mankiw's book, chapter 1 to chapter 11 is in your syllabus. And then partly chapter 12 is also your syllabus, partly chapter 12. Okay. So I'll say that, following the philosophy of self-study, you can just start reading Mankiw's book from chapter 1. It's a pretty easy book. Apart from the diagrams, there is one important thing, that is examples. Okay, there is no point of studying economics unless you understand the real life scenarios and how the economics is at work in there. So Mankiw has several examples, and it is very important that you understand two things. Number one is why this example is there. Okay, so what is the intent of the writer, say, to putting these examples in a specific section? And second is how the concept which comes obviously before citing the example is at work here. Okay, so this is something also you very important, because some of the questions, they will have sort of case studies, not really case studies, but sort of that, like what happens if there is a storm in Florida, and it kind of decreases the supply of orange. Okay, these kind of scenarios. So they are real time scenarios. So you have to connect that real time scenarios to economics itself to solve some problems. Okay, so questions which are based on examples. All right. So the first task that I'll obviously give you is that just start reading the book. It's a good idea, and obviously it is required. Okay, now let us come to the those parts which are starting point of a much bigger journey. Okay. So if I say from Parloff, then first comes unit 2, demand and supply. Don't think that I'm not saying that you don't study demand and supply from Mankiw, but what I'm saying is that if you want to do something in your life, then you have to study demand and supply from Parloff. Okay, that's what I'm saying. All right, so unit 2, demand and supply, then unit 3, I think 3, no, not 3, sorry. Unit 5, which is government intervention. That is how government policies changes government intervention. So policies affecting equilibrium. Okay, that's the actual point of study here. And then probably the most important part of your first semester, and also the biggest one, is the, as it says, utilitarian approach. Utilitarian approach. Okay. So by which we mean there are two theories. Number one, as I wrote earlier also, cardinal utility theory. And then comes ordinal utility theory. And it is ordinal utility theory which is sort of the theory, and based on which the third semester syllabus of micro will start. All right. Now, let me mention also unit 4, because elasticity is also something on which we must solve problems from a book like Parlov. Okay, and also elasticity is connected to demand and supply, right? So if you are studying demand and supply from a book, then you must try and solve some elasticity problems from that book also. Okay, so in summary, we can say that unit 1 and unit 3, they are kind of uh, our dictionary, or probably our, yeah, kind of our dictionary, which will talk about terms and their relations. 2, 4, 5, 6, they are connected. Okay, so 2, 3, 4 are connected in the sense that 2 is demand and supply, 3 is an idea which is related. Elasticity is an idea which is related to demand and supply, and 4 is kind of studies of equilibrium of demand and supply. So when I'm saying policy is affecting equilibrium what? Equilibrium of demand and supply. And then 6, sorry, not 2, 3, 4, 2, 4, 5, sorry, 2, 4, and 5, right? Yeah, 2, 4, and 5, right? Yes. And unit 6 is, it is the background of demand curve. Okay. It is the background of demand curve. For example, in demand and supply, we talk about demand curves, and we'll talk about consumers who will actually bear this pressure of having a demand curve, right, which will be following the law, downward sloping and all. But the point is, where from this demand curve is coming? Okay, so unit 6 is an approach to answer this question. So the end of unit 6 is actually getting the demand curve. That's the objective of studying unit 6, is the background. Similarly, supply curve has its background, and that background contains 3 chapters, but those are in semester 3. So your seniors are studying the background of supply, and then we'll come back to the demand supply scenario once again in sem 3, but with background. Here we'll start from a heuristic point where we'll say there is a demand curve which goes downward, and in good days it goes following a straight line, in bad days it becomes a curve. Okay, so this is the content of first paper, and that's how we will deal with it. Let's come to Mathico. Okay. Now, mathematical economics, by its name, talks about the mathematical models and also the mathematics that are needed to understand their application in economics. Okay, so the purpose of the Mathico is basically to know about the mathematics which is applied in economics, and also some of the models sort of as an example of that application. Now, obviously, it is true that a subject which is more than 250 years old, its use of mathematics, that is far more difficult than what you can perceive at this level. So in studying mathematical eco, something of that sort is, so that is something that we have to always keep in mind. So when it comes to the mathematics which is applied in the economics, we are interested in concepts, but not really in deep, not really in depth, okay, because that's simply not possible. That takes time. All right, and obviously methodology. and that you have to understand. So this is, I'm talking about mathematics. Now, when it comes to application of this methodology in economics, that is something that you have to definitely understand. And some of the most important question is, is it applicable? That is the most important question. But obviously, we are going to sort of bypass it, because in mathematical economics, we are more interested in how it looks after application. Whether it is applicable or not, or how it is becoming applicable, that's a part of economics. That's part of micro or macroeconomics. Okay. So here we are interested in this methodology within economics. Okay. So let me give an example. The example is that the branch of mathematics that we'll be partly studying is linear algebra. So obviously we have to, first of all, you have to know what it means, what it does, but not in depth, because this itself is a branch of mathematics. So it's not possible actually to learn it in depth. Having in-depth knowledge is not really possible in this framework. But what we are interested in more than that is the methodology. Okay, so what are linear equations? What are the ways which we can solve it? And then we're interested in how it works in economics. So if I'm talking about a linear model in macroeconomics, okay, how does it look? How do we solve it? That's what we are more interested in. Okay, so to put it simply, we are interested in, to say it very basic, we are interested in simultaneous equation, we are interested in its solution, we are also interested in its general nature of solution, but we are more interested in the solution when it covers something called ISLM model, which appear in macroeconomics. Okay. Now, one of the difficulty that such a kind of scenario brings in is that we'll be doing a linear model of simple Keynesian model, okay, SKM, simple Keynesian model. All right. So this model is also, it comes under macroeconomics, and when I'll be applying, or when I'm constructing a linear model of SKM, obviously that linear model is coming from the ideas or the relationship of variables that is there in the model, but that is studied in macro. So when in this SEM we'll be talking about linear model version of SKM, we will take for granted, so that's the only difficult part, we'll take it for granted that C is connected to Y following a straight line. We'll not go into the details of that. We'll not go into the details of what it means in the macroeconomic sense, how it controls the ad hoc behavior of people. Okay, we'll not go into those kind of details. We'll just say that in a scheme, this is what happens. And from that, I can write a straight line, which will look like C equal to C bar plus small c into Y. Okay, so this is the kind of thing we are interested in. And the background that lies in micro or macro, and that background we'll take it for granted. Okay. But other than that, yes, we have some difficult mathematics. And also, given the amount of time that will be needed to go through all of this, that's much, much higher than micro. Okay. Now, there is one book that we are going to follow religiously. All right. And that book is written by Chiang. And we'll follow religiously primarily because of the syllabus and exam. But the mathematics, not application of economics. The mathematics that Chiang has, it has its little bit of problems. So partly we'll follow a book called Sidseter-Hammond. Sidseter-Hammond. The mathematics of this book is quite good. It's great actually. Anyways, so then again, Chiang will be our religiously followed book. We'll do every exercise, every problem that the book offers within our syllabus. Okay, within this syllabus. And if I take semester 2 in consideration, then basically in these 2 semesters, that is in this year, in this academic year, divided in 2 sems, you have to cover almost entirely the book, almost the everything of this book, apart from I think one chapter and some subsections. Okay. Now, one of the advantage of Chiang, or one of the quality of Chiang, is the economic models. So the economic models that Chiang has, they are the best. I mean, in writing, in exposition, how Chiang writes it, okay, in that sense, they are the best. So obviously, we have to go through the economic models that are there in Chiang, whether it be SKM or ISLM or anything, word by word, word by word. Okay, you cannot miss even a single word when we talk about this. Sidseter-Hammond, I'll use it occasionally just to give you a much better background of the mathematics that is involved. Now, I must also say one hidden implicit difficulty of Mathico, and the difficulty is this. You see, we'll be covering topics which range, I think, over 100 years. And that brings in a little bit of problem. The problem is that, the kind of mathematics that are actually used in those works, they're quite of higher level. And that is not really the problem. The problem is it uses mathematics of several different branches. Okay. So to some extent, whatever you study, if I go by mathematics, it looks like this. We'll go for different branches of mathematics. And we'll study parts of it. Okay. So what it does is it kind of breaks the continuation. And that's the kind of problem that you will have here. Okay. So for example, we will study something which are related to, I put it like analysis or real analysis. Okay. So we'll do something which are connected to real analysis. Then we will do something which are connected to linear algebra. Okay. And then we will do something which is connected to game theory, which is entirely different from these two. All right. Now, just to mention, okay, in real analysis, within the purview of real analysis comes, if I go by units, so it comes one, which works with set relation mapping, limit continuity differentiability, something that you have done earlier. Then obviously it goes for unit 2, which talks about, graphs of polynomial and more, and again, some part of some specific application of differentiability or differentiation for that matter. Then 3, which talks about single variable optimization, essentially maxima minima. Okay. And then 4, which is integration. Now, if you look at unit 1 to 4, you will see one thing appearing common in 2, 3, 4. At the last part, there is something called application of economics. Okay, that is written there. So that's it. That is the thing that I was talking about. So it is this we want to understand. And to better understand this, we'll be learning mathematics. Okay. All right. Then comes matrix algebra, unit 5, which is linear algebra. So in some sense, 1, 2, 3, 4, they have their continuation with some special stress on convexity and other things. Okay. Then unit 5 is entirely separate, linear algebra, which is very different from all of this. I mean, at this level at least. Okay. And then comes game theory, which is entirely the last one, which is entirely different from these two. Now, the book that I talked about, Chiang, is not appropriate for game theory at all. Right? For game theory, there are two options, apart from what I teach. And both of them are good options. Okay. Let me just write them here. So for game theory, there is one option which is by Gibbons. The name of the book is A Primer in Game Theory. A Primer in Game Theory. Okay. And then there is a book which is sort of favorite of mine, which is written by Martin J. Osborne. To put it simply, it's called Introduction to Game Theory. Introduction to Game Theory. Okay, just to stress the point, Gibbons has two books, so you have to look for this book specifically, A Primer in Game Theory. And Osborne has only one single author book. This book, that is Introduction to Game Theory, it is written by Osborne alone. Okay, so that signifies it. Okay, now you can go with any of these two. Okay, it doesn't matter. I personally prefer Osborne because I read at large this book in ISI because ISI sort of favors this book. Gibbons is also a good text, so you can go with any of them. They are equivalent essentially, but I personally love this book. So probably I'll be biased towards buying this one. And then there is one book, Thinking Strategically, which is not really a textbook in that sense. It is written by Avinash Dixit. I think, if I'm not wrong, it is written by Avinash Dixit. Let's see whether it is in your reference or not. Okay. No. Anyway, so thinking strategically. Now, game theory is something which, to some, which is the most interesting part of economics actually, but which is, to me, the most difficult part of economics also. It's not difficult because it has very difficult mathematics. It is simply difficult because it is new. You have studied nothing which looks like game theory or which will kind of lead you to game theory. You have studied nothing like that. Even if you go mathematically, game theory is very different from these two branches. So it's a new thing. And that's why reading a book, so this is a casual reading. Reading a book like Thinking Strategically is a good idea. It's because it allows you to enter into the subject in a more funny way, okay, in a more casual way, and that helps because game theory is going to stay there with you until you until you go to some financial job probably. Other than that, it will stay there with you. So these books that I'm talking about, they are not, I'm not talking about them because you have something called game theory in your first semester. I'm talking about them because you have chosen to study economics honors. Okay, and game theory will be there with you for a long time. All right, so these are the books that are there. Obviously, linear algebra is something very important in economics. As a branch of mathematics, linear algebra is very important, not only because you have a unit called matrix algebra, but because linear is used heavily in all the branches of economics. It gives you a huge base in econometrics. To put it straight, if you do not know linear algebra, you will not be able to understand econometrics fully. You will understand this branch as a logbook, not as a subject itself. Also, linear algebra is knowledge of linear is pretty important when it comes to entrance. Okay, when it comes to ISI or the school. So I'll put it like this: after 5 years, you have to choose whether you will be stressing more on game theory or on linear algebra. But, anyways, you have to be knowledgeable in both of them. So, for linear, I'll suggest one book by Hadley. Okay, and it is also a very simple book. And remember, this book is, I'm suggesting this book like Thinking Strategically for reading. Okay, so Hadley's Linear Algebra, G. Hadley. Let me just take a look at it again. Yes, G. Hadley, Linear Algebra. Okay, Hadley is good enough. So this is a very interesting book. It's a very basic book, and it's the best point to start linear algebra. Okay, it's not really that difficult. Uh, all right. So we have to, in summary, we have Chiang to get you through what you have in your first semester and second semester, and for that we have to follow it religiously. But Chiang will not really help you in game theory. For that, you will need a book like Osborne. But a book like Osborne will stay with you. Its demand will be there with you for a long time, for the next 5 years. And then I'll suggest Thinking Strategically because it will help you to solve problems of game theory more easily. It will teach you how to think strategically, as its name suggests, which is quite important in game theory. I'm stressing on it again that this subject doesn't look like anything what you have studied. Okay, it is based on your own senses, and that makes it quite difficult to start with. And then linear algebra, G. Hadley. Linear algebra again will something which will, a knowledge of which will pay you off or pay you as long as you want to be in something which is related to economics. So this is also for your own reading, okay, for a much better base, which will lead you to a better career. Okay. All right. So I think we are clear on how to treat. Yes, last but not the least is about real analysis. Since you have to learn mathematics in your general subject, I'll say that you buy Apostol Calculus Volume 1. This book, again, though it says calculus, it is not anything you have studied in your high school. This is a book which will lead you to not only problem solving. This book is majorly to study, to read. Okay. And not only that, Apostol's Calculus is a classic in its own right. Okay. So it's the best book on calculus that you can have. And since you have solved problems of calculus in high school, you will be able to understand what he writes in English. Also, Calculus Volume 1 is that book in which you will find several problems which are quite similar to the problems that appear in institutes like ISI and Delhi School. Okay, so these 4 books That is Osborne, Dixit, Calculus, and Hadley. You are not buying them because you have mathematical economics paper in your semester. You are buying them because you are here to study economics honors, and hopefully you are going to do masters in economics, and then you'll either go for a PhD or some kind of corporate job. Okay.